Hello, Saints. I hope you're having a good day. If not, it's okay. God still loves you and it will get better. You just got to be patient. Um, so, today is a day where we're going to discuss a challenge. Let's talk about it. Prayer. Anytime that you're in a position in which you're praying for something to happen in your life and you're not seeing any results from it, meaning like you have, you're praying and you're asking God for something. Like, for example, right now I'm praying for God to see me through this car situation. My car is still down, still have not fixed it. I still don't have the means to purchase a new car. So when I get in those positions where I feel like, there are things going on in my life and I have came to a point where I cannot uh, move forward. And instead of keep praying the same prayer, what I do is, because sometimes my faith will get in the way too. So, when your prayers don't get answered, you go through this mindset of wondering, like, well, am I supposed to be going through this? Is God hearing me? Um, how do I get out of this, or do I just accept the fate? How do I know I'm praying the right prayer? So what I usually do is I start praising first, which is when I do a prayer of thanks. So whenever I'm going through a hardship, and things can always be worse than what they are, as people say, glass has half empty type stuff. So I go through what I call a praise prayer. And that is when I thank God for things that he have done. And sometimes that prayer can go overflow into where he's brought me from, things that I've overcome throughout the years. And what that does is it feeds my spirit of faith, because it reminds you of things you've been through, how God delivered you from them, which means he can deliver you from this too when the time comes. So it allows you to grow that patience. It increases your patience because you do know it confirms that, okay, God has blessed me before. He's pulled me out of situations before. So now I just have to be patient. I just have to wait on him. And then I will transition into a prayer of others. And so for me, that means I start praying for people that I love, not because they ask me to pray for them, because, that's common to pray for people that ask. I pray for people even if they don't ask me to. If they cross my mind, I will pray for them. Something that, if we've had a discussion about certain things, or, if I felt like they've been going through things, or, even if it's just a prayer to thank God that they're in season of joy. And what I do is when I pray those prayers, and I do, sometimes I do ask God to, and I intercept on their behalf, and I ask God to, bless them. And they're like, and I get specific sometimes. And what happens is God answers those prayers. And I don't tell them, oh, by the way, I prayed for you last night, da 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 da. So they don't even know that this is something that I've been praying for God to do for them. And so when they reach out to me and they say, well, this happened, and you get that confirmation, I call it that praise report. I can use that as confirmation for me to know that God still hears my prayers, because now this person that I'm connected to, and I prayed, like, oh my gosh, I prayed for that for this person, and God did it. So that lets you know that God still hears your prayers, but it also lets you know that God is still working. Because that's the point. It's not for you to get upset and be like, well, he answered that prayer for her, but why he ain't answering that prayer for me? Or he answered that prayer for him, why he answered that prayer for me? It's for you to be able to know that God is still working and God still hears you. So in other words, he heard that prayer that you pray for your friend or the person you care about. He also heard that prayer that you pray for yourself. So he's still working on it. You just haven't seen the outcome of it yet because some things take longer than others. And there's things that have to be moved and shift. Their strategy. God is, God of excellence. So of course when he fixes something, it's for a permanent fix. And when you're fixing something to be fixed permanently, then you have to know that sometimes there are more moving parts to that require more patience. There's, for example, um, if your car springs a leak in the radiator or brake fluid line or whatever, and you can go to the store and you can get like this stop leak. You put the fluid in or you add in brake fluid or radiator fluid or whatever, or this leak stuff to it. It temporarily stops the leak. Now, temporary, it that is a word that can has a measurement of various types. It can be temporary for a month, a year, 3 years, just depends. But instead of him just pouring a stop leak in, God is actually going to replace the hose. Okay, to do that, now with the stop leak, you put that in, you can keep rolling. You don't even have to let your car sit. Because as a matter of fact, it tell you drive the car because it works better. But it's still temporary. So eventually, at some point, you're going to have to repair that leak. And when you do that, that requires the vehicle to sit still and to be worked on. You can't be operating in that vehicle while it's being worked on. But it's a permanent fix, right? It's gonna be fixed for years on end. It's a new part. It comes with a warranty. It comes with everything that you need in order for you to not have to ever worry about that particular leak again. So that's the type of guy that I work with. I work with a guy that do permanent fixes, and sometimes in order for him to do a permanent fix, I have to sit still. I have to be patient. I have to wait. In the meantime, while I'm waiting, that doesn't mean that I'm idle and sitting and waiting and looking. It means that I can focus on other things like praying for other people or investing time in him and spending more time in the word or spending more time doing things that are pleasing to him while he's working on the situations in my life. So I want you to look at prayer. Take the challenge if you're going through something, and I do mean going through some things. 'Cause I'm going through. Don't I don't look like what I've been through because I look like what I overcome, and I do that intentionally because it is a reminder for me that despite of all the hardships in my life, God shows up and He gives me victory. But I am part of the reason I can recall those victories is because it was a journey. It took time to get to that place. It took time for me to see the outcome and go um when that happened. So if you're in a position and you feeling like, like I've been in this, and you can be in it for a while. Like right now my car's been down for probably a month or two. There's been hardships that I've been in. I was in one hardship that I felt like for 10 years. I'm gonna be honest with you. It was a 10-year hardship before God brought me out of it. But now that He's brought me out of it, I'll never have to go back to that ever, 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 ever again because He provided me a permanent fix for it. And yes, I'm talking about the purchase of my home. I rented a home for 10 years. In that 10 years, I was trying to buy a home. I was getting denied. It was so much going on, so many ins, so many outs, and so many levels. But when God got involved and He started taking me through the process according to His plan, He made it where I have a permanent home now. Instead of me renting a home, I'm purchasing my home and I'm in ownership of my home. So I don't ever have to worry about, having a roof over my head. But it didn't come easy, and it didn't come with me just going through the newspaper or making a couple of phone calls, filling out a little application, like, okay, well, you can move in 90 days. No, or in a week. When you rent a home, you can move in a week. When you're buying a home, you have to close. You have to wait on that 30-day closing period. So when it's a permanent fix, it requires a more length of time. It requires God to move and shift things so that they don't go back and they don't revert. So, but during the process, just like when you're getting your car fixed, you can become impatient because you still got stuff to do. You still got to be able to go to the store. You still got to be able to go to work. You still got to be able to run your errands. And so, but you know that you can't go jump in that car, because if you go try to get in your car while it's in the middle of being fixed, you're going to make it worse, right? So you don't do that. Instead, you do other things. So like, okay, so you do workarounds. I can't go to the grocery store right now, so I'm going to do laundry until the car's fixed. If the car's going to be down for a few days, you make arrangements in order for you to be able to get back and forth to work, or you take a couple of days off work. You do things in order to make it easy for you to be able to know that this is for the better. I have to make a few alterations to my everyday life for the better. And so when you believe in God for something, sometimes you have to make a few alterations to your prayers for the better. And one of those things that I do, like I said, I do praise prayers and I do prayers for others. So I challenge you, if you're going through something right now, and sometimes we just focus too much on ourselves and what we're going through, and God is wanting us to just get out of our situation and give him all of us. And that's one of the ways you can show him that you trust that he has you, is by praying for someone else, and investing that time and helping to grow his kingdom. That builds your relationship with God, because that again lets him know that you trust him. We can say it all day long, we can feel it in our heart, but faith is a action word as well. So you have to start doing things along with saying you believe in God. You have to start doing things to show that you have belief in God. And I'm very excited about this particular message, because um I have been operating this way for about, I'll say, 2 weeks at most. I When God he revealed to me the understanding of why I was feeling like I was cut off from him. It wasn't him, it was me. It was because I was trying to take over and take control of the part of the life that he has. Like, he's like, yes, I give you today. I give you, when you wake up in the morning, from that moment on, you have decisions that you can make. Your free will kicks in. But when you start talking about tomorrow, now you messing with my time, because only God holds the future. So I was so busy in my head and constantly trying to figure out what's going to happen the next day, and trying to operate in a day that I have no control over. I have no outcome, no way of knowing what was going to happen the next day. I was focusing so much on that, to the point to where it was interfering with the plans that God had for me. And then pretty much almost got me into some trouble. I had to go and repent and ask God for forgiveness for that, because I was operating beyond, I was getting off the path. I was losing focus of what he needed me to be focused on. So once I realized that, and I repented, I asked God for forgiveness, and I started practicing and operating in praise prayers and prayers for others. And I can feel my faith growing from that. I can feel my confidence coming back from that. I can feel, just a lot of the worry and stress and sorrow that I was having behind my own situation started becoming lighter. Even going to work became easier for me, because now, instead of me like, oh gosh, how I'm going to deal with tomorrow, or this and that, A, B, C, and D, now I wake up with the attitude of, I'm not even thinking about me. I'm not going to work thinking about what I have to do and what I need to do. I go to work with the intent of knowing that God is with me, and that's enough for me now. So if you are struggling, I hope this helps you out. I hope that you do take the challenge and pray for someone else, without telling them that, hey, I pray for you, but just, pray for them a specific prayer. Know their situation, pray on it. Or even if you don't know their situation, something that you desire for them. It could be for them to, if they're looking for another job, pray for God to elevate them in their career. If they're looking relationship wise, pray for God to bring someone in their life that brings them joy. If it's just, they are overwhelmed, pray for God to send them peace, and then let them, when the next time you talk to them, or when God answers that prayer and you hear those confirmations, and most of the time you will hear words that you actually use in your prayers come out of their mouths. And at that point, you will feel your faith grow. You will feel your confidence. You will feel your joy. You will feel the emotional uh, connection with knowing that God hears your prayers. And it will also let you know, okay, I just, I'm still hearing, God's still hearing my prayers, which means if He heard the one from today, He heard the one from last week and 2 years ago and 10 years ago. Um, and you will be able to be more it'll make you feel more comfortable to be able to leave your situations with God, because we have the tendency to pray for things over and over and over and over, and we hear our ancestors, we hear our elders tell us all the time, pray it and leave it. That's what they mean when you pray and you just trust God to just take care of it for you. For example, it's no different from if you ask somebody to stop by the store and pick up something from you from the store. I don't care, band-aids, groceries, apples, or something. If they once they say okay, they're gonna do it. You don't call them back 10 times later unless you don't trust them to do it. If it's somebody that you trust their word, you trust their agreement, you're not going to keep calling them, asking them, did you do it? Did you do it? You trust them, so now you check it off your list, and then when you meet up with them later, you know that the apples or the band-aids or whatever you asked for is going to be there. You got to have that same level of faith with God withholding your life. Even though you can't see them, you don't see them go into the store and pick out the apples or whatever it is. Once they give you that okay, they're going to take care of it, you let it go. Unless you doubt that they can do it. And then if you doubt, you text and you call, you ask. That's when there's a little, some situations there's like, because you going off of how. And then most of the time it's going to be based on your history with that person. So in the past, if you've asked them to go to the store and they've forgotten, you're going to send them a reminder. In the past, if they've went to the store and you never had to remind them, you don't call them back. So that's how you're able to identify where you are with your faith. If you keep going back and asking for things, are you doing it because you feel desperate and you're not reminding yourself of what God can do for you? Or your faith is not as strong as you need it to be in order for God to operate on your behalf. So we are God's creation, but we are blessed to be able to have free will. So He's going to allow us, yes. So in other words, you can pray for something and give it to God. And as free will goes, you can also take it back. And see, when we do that, when we take it back unintentionally, sometimes um we hinder Him. We intervene with the strategy and the plan, and then He has to reroute according to how we operate. So you have to practice good habits in order to strengthen your faith, and one of those is being able to pray to God and ask God to take care of you, and then leave it at that. And you do that by moving yourself forward. And like me, I'm still learning, I'm still growing. So sometimes I have to give myself a distraction to prevent myself from um continuing to pick up things that I've already given God and trying to take control and be like, okay, I need to start working on this. Like, because we've done that before. We're like, Lord, I need a job, I need this and that, and then we give it to God, and then we'll turn around, and when we get frustrated at work, next thing we're doing, we online looking at applications, we call and ask people about job. So unless God told you to move that way, you've taken it back from Him. You've gotten impatient with how He's operating in your life, and you're taking it back. So when you do that, you have to realize when you've done that, and you have to ask God for forgiveness, give it back to Him, and allow His mercy to come in and fix whatever you've already, misconstrued or messed around with, and allow Him to continue to operate. Because just because you take it back and make your mistakes or whatever, that don't mean He's gonna give it to you any quicker. You still gonna get it when He wants you to have it. What God has for you is for you and nobody else. So you're still not going to get it before he feels you are ready to handle that level of blessing. So the best thing you can do for yourself when you get impatient and when you become too overwhelmed with your circumstance is to take your mind off your circumstances in the spiritual realm by reminding yourself of what God is capable of doing, what he has done for you, and allowing him to be able to witness him blessing others to let you know that you are in line for your blessing as well. So I really hope this bless you. You have a good day, have a good evening, exercise, operate in prayer by praying for others and praying for yourself in a way of praise and worship to God, and then watch how he work. Trust me, you will not be disappointed.